Welcome, everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started. This is our first webinar in the Leadership and Internships series, Making a Positive Impact from the Start of Your Internship. My name is Lisa Peterson, and I'm a new media education specialist here with the sponsors of the event, which includes the Center for Public Health Practice and the Center for Health Leadership here at the School of Public Health. And I want to welcome all of our students. We have quite a few from many concentrations. And as I said, this webinar is the first in a two-part series, which is going to focus on improving your practical leadership skills for summer internships. And before we get started, I wanted to address a few housekeeping tips. Before we dive in, a couple reminders. Be sure to mute your phones by pressing *6. And also know that we're going to be recording both the webinar's audio and the chat feature. So if you do not want to be recorded, please refrain from talking or using the chat feature. Also, use the chat feature to let us know if you're having any trouble hearing the audio portion for any of the speakers, and we'll do our best to troubleshoot it. And as I mentioned in the chat box, the audio portion is coming through the phone line, so folks will need to dial in. And a little bit about who you're going to be hearing from today. We have Jennifer Lachance, who's the Associate Director of the Center for Health Leadership and Director of the Center for Health Leadership Fellows Program, as well as Audrey Cristobal, who's a Field Supervisor for the Health and Social Behavior Concentration. And I'm also going to be joining as our tech support behind the curtain, so to speak, and I'm going to help facilitate our conversation together. So I am happy now to hand this over to Audrey, who's going to take it from here. Audrey, are you there?
I am. Thanks, Lisa.
Great.
Hi, everyone. Well, we're really excited and just wanted to echo what Lisa shared about our excitement about the first in this leadership series. And it's definitely a learning curve for us because we're definitely hearing from you all about what matters most to you at this point in your internship, but really want to work through some of those challenges and share some strategies or some tips to help address them as you think about the next few weeks in that space. So to walk you through what we're going to be covering today, that includes just a brief overview about what we'll be covering, as well as some common challenges. Some of these challenges have been informed by the feedback that we received in your pre-webinar survey. And we're going to also have you walk through some scenarios that were based on some of those challenges and share some strategies to address them. Then we're going to bring that all together with a summary of the challenges and strategies. And then also hear some from you about any additional thoughts or questions that you may have when it comes to this topic of how to make a positive impact in your internship. And then Jen is going to be sharing with us some information about a Leading From Where You Are award. And then we'll also talk about next steps. So with that, I'm going to talk about why it's important to start your internship strong and in a way that not only you feel good about the work that you do, but your organization does as well in terms of the contributions that you make in that space. So the benefits of starting strong. So how do you get to move down this road of being the best intern ever and to be the rock stars that you are? The benefits of starting strong really lend itself to understanding expectations and needs. So this is a two-way conversation, if you will, between you and your preceptor, as well as with the other team members that are involved with the work that you're responsible for, to understand expectations for the summer, your needs and your priorities as well, and that involves the alignment of those expectations and needs with organizational priorities. It's also helpful to start strong in order to establish credibility in terms of what you do well and how you can apply what you do well in the context of the work that you're responsible for. This is also important in terms of learning about fit. Is this the kind of organization where you see yourself in the fall semester, if not post-graduation? Is this the kind of work that fuels the fire in your belly and something that you want to do in the future. It's also important to assess whether or not this is something that you don't want to do, because like all things, understanding what you don't want to do or not too jazzed about is just as important as knowing what you do love and care about. So we want to hear from you about what early challenges have you faced so far in your internship. Read through these options, and in the next couple of seconds or so, we will also have a poll that shows up on this webinar and have you vote for which of these have you faced so far, just to get a pulse of where everybody's at.
Here's the poll, Audrey.
Thanks, Lisa.
So everyone can go ahead and fill out the poll. We're just going to skip to the results so you can see them change as folks add their answers. It looks like, Audrey, that's just about most folks have answered.
Okay, so it sounds like there's definitely a range of challenges that folks on this call have experienced so far, but one of the things that definitely stands out is in relation to still trying to figure out the organization, and also just not knowing how you're doing so far in your role. I should share that oftentimes interns anticipate that their internships will be exciting, interesting, and meaningful opportunities that lead to deepening their interest and directly benefiting their future careers. And at this stage in the game, folks are still trying to figure that out, and I think that's definitely normal in this particular phase. So how to address these challenges? Well, we're going to move quickly through these slides, but at the end of the PowerPoint presentation, we'll also share some ways for you to dig a little deeper and to access other resources outside of this webinar for you to ask any additional questions that you may have. So what I'm going to be doing next is having us walk through several scenarios for you to then chime in on. So let's look at the first one. So read through this scenario, and then you'll be asked to choose which options are most relevant to making the most of your internship. Okay, so then based on that scenario, let's go ahead and hear from folks. All right, so it looks like folks to do a number of things. Only one person said do nothing. I should share that a lot of these options aren't necessarily mutually exclusive, or that one option is by far the best option out of the others that are presented here. Some of these can definitely be implemented simultaneously or concurrently. It's important to just figure out why doing some of these things is important. So that really lends itself to the importance of managing up. In a nutshell, managing up is a method of career development that's based on consciously working for the mutual benefit of you, the preceptor, and the organization where you're at. What it doesn't mean is that it's avoiding work, rebelling, kissing up, or trying to turn the tables on a higher up. It really reflects the importance of understanding your preceptor's position and requirements in making yourself known as that stellar employee or rock star that you know that you are by exceeding his or her expectations and needs. Essentially, it's really reflecting and showcasing that you care about doing quality work and that you're capable of doing something about it. So how can managing up help you? Well, first, in your day-to-day working life, you'll be happier and more fulfilled if you feel you're working efficiently, communicating well with your preceptor, and doing your job in the way that makes his or her job easier. And the reason that you put your preceptor's needs or are aware of your preceptor's needs is because that means that everyone has more breathing room and is able to do the job that they signed up to do. Second, managing up helps you in terms of when you want to advance your career. So whether you're gunning for new responsibilities, a promotion, or a new job, the respect and confidence of your current boss or preceptor is one of the big aces that you can have up your sleeve. There's hardly a better way to stand out as a valuable asset than to have a track record of reliable, thoughtful work behind you. And so the key takeaway here that we'd like to leave you with is that managing up is a real skill and can be developed over time. There will be some trial and error based on who you are as an individual and the organizational culture that you find yourself in, but the effort can have a great payoff. So what to do specifically? To be able to communicate in a way that works for your preceptor and to better understand what she or he wants from you requires that the action steps that you may propose or the pivot that you may ultimately do should be influenced in a foundation of understanding. The key is to engage in some self-reflection based on your experience. And if you find yourself in a situation where you may not be wanting to do a certain task or want to be challenged more, asking yourself the following questions can be a useful exercise. So asking yourself things like, what is my preceptor trying to accomplish with these projects? What does she or he value most personally and professionally? What roles does she or he envision me playing? And how can I help achieve those goals? So what you'll find in this self-reflection is that some of the answers to these questions come easily. Others you might have to do a little bit more data gathering to address. But you would ultimately find that you can seize the opportunity for a conversation that is more well-informed than what you originally realized. So when you make the move to talk about actionable steps, take care to come across as curious and respectful. In the scenario that we just went over, it's important to come across as curious and respectful, but not as gossipy or prying about what's going on with Project B, for example. You may want to say something along these lines to your preceptor. I want to make a great impact here, but I'm new to this organization or this work in HIV/AIDS or X content area. But I could benefit from learning from your experience and wonder if we could set up a time for me to ask some questions about your past experiences and current goals. It's essentially inviting this information or this opportunity to gather information from your preceptor before you actually pitch an idea of how you can help and why. So next I'd like to just share some additional strategies for you to consider in managing up. One of them is to understand your preceptor's expectations or goals. Essentially that means finding out what his or her objectives and priorities are. What keeps him or her up at night? Think about some of the ways that you can help achieve those organizational goals. Take initiative but accept guidance as well. Keep in mind that while enthusiasm and confidence are great, as an intern you're ultimately there to learn from other individuals who may have more expertise in the field and or understanding of the organization itself. So you may also, in your regular meetings with your preceptor, try to be aware of how you understand your goals and objectives for the rest of the summer that you'll be there and the projects that you'll be responsible for, and also provide regular updates as well on the work that you're doing. Another strategy to manage up is to learn your preceptor's communication style and flex your style to his or her preferred interactions. So asking, how does your preceptor prefer to interact? Does that mean they want to meet weekly, biweekly, or monthly? Do they prefer written reports with lots of details or brief summaries with only highlights? Does she or he want to meet in person or receive email updates and then follow up with you on any questions that they may have? It's important to adapt your communication style to best fit your preceptors in order to work more effectively with one another. Another strategy to manage up for you to consider is helping your preceptor and the organization be successful. If they're successful, you'll be more successful. So rather than going around your preceptor or above him or her to resolve issues and criticizing organizational processes and policies, especially at this early stage of your internship, make some legitimate suggestions for improvement and volunteer for improvement efforts. We'll get into this in later slides as well. But essentially you want to make your goal to be establishing a strong working relationship and to increase awareness, the awareness of your preceptor as well as the awareness of your colleagues about the value that you provide, given that you're new to this organization, but also bring a lot of skill sets and experiences behind you. After all, let's not forget that you interviewed for this competitive position and they asked you to be involved in their organization because of the quality of work that they expected for you to contribute. So let's take a look at another scenario now. So take a minute or so to read through this, and then another poll will be shared with you shortly. All right, so now based on the fact that you've noticed that your preceptor is stressed and exhausted but won't ask for help, what would you do to make the most of your internship? All right, so now let's take a look at the results. So folks, again, we're all over the board, but I think that looks like the majority opted to do a skills inventory. Again, it's great to do that in light of the fact of the importance of taking some self-reflection. It's important that the options in terms of what to do next or whatever you're going to pitch to your preceptor is grounded in information about what you do well and how you can best leverage those assets. And so it's great that some of this self-reflection can then help inform, what questions you bring up with colleagues to develop further ideas, and also then ultimately what you share with your preceptor in terms of what that extra work will entail. So let's look at some other ways to address this in terms of some additional self-reflection. So similar to the first scenario, self-reflection before jumping right in with proposed solutions is helpful. So for instance, if you understand what your preceptor expects when it comes to project deadlines and deliverables, coupling that with exactly how you've done that well can position you in a better light when you pitch new ideas about how to leverage your availability to take on additional tasks or projects. It may also be helpful for you to ask your preceptor and even other team or staff members about additional details regarding project requirements or possible strategies to implement on a new assignment, so that your preceptor notices that you are asking thoughtful questions. And then she or he is likely to see you as a crucial contributor to the team who can add value. The importance here is just to remember to listen to the feedback provided. And the strategies in order to address this also fall under the umbrella of managing up. And to break that down a little bit further, another strategy to manage up involves paying attention to the normal rhythms of your organization. So in the last scenario that you just read and responded to, you've noticed that your preceptor is stretched. So you need to discover where you might be able to pitch in. I think it's also important to caution against assuming the reasons why your preceptor hasn't asked for your help. And the reasons, it doesn't necessarily mean, for example, that your preceptor doesn't value your contributions or is underestimating what you're capable of doing. It can be influenced by their own personal management styles or a myriad of organizational or external factors that they're weighing currently. So when it comes to overseeing multiple projects, some preceptors may also not have the time to manage all the specifics. So this is where you come in terms of offering some valuable suggestions, if it would help, and couching that as, how can I best support you and what you're doing? So pay attention to details and raise concerns so that you can earn the trust of your preceptor and be recognized for your efforts in spotting ways to improve the quality of the work and the processes in which it's done. So for example, offer to draft a couple of ideas for his or her review before the next meeting, or suggest you'd be happy to give a report that you're working on or that you learned about a second pair of eyes, if that would help. And this again reflects your strengths. So even if your preceptor doesn't take you up on your offer, you've highlighted your concern for his or her time and an ability to think beyond established patterns. Another strategy that you may want to consider underneath this umbrella is showing your willingness to go above and beyond what's in the job description in your internship. This is also known as seeking out extra work. So describe also what those additions are on your internship agreement form. Again, the internship agreement form is a living document. By including these extra assignments that you've taken on, it's a way to refer back to exactly what you did over the course of these 12 weeks as you revise your resume and reflect on what you want to share in future job interviews. So, it's important to look for opportunities to assist colleagues and volunteer for assignments of interest to you. This last strategy that I'd like to share, but cannot emphasize enough, is displaying a positive attitude. Impressions matter. Your goal, one of your major goals in this summer is that you want to have the organization, your preceptor especially, primed to tell your next employer that you worked hard and what you did well. A reference is one of the most important things that can come from this internship, along with the other learning nuggets that you'll get out of doing the work. But ultimately, to keep in mind that the quality of every task that you complete and every interaction you have with your colleagues will affect how you are perceived by them. So this doesn't mean you have to be the expert on day one or be excited about everything that's thrown your way. It just means that every day you should show up ready to do your best. A positive attitude is a key quality that can demonstrate strength of character and can win the respect of your colleagues by making you someone that they enjoy working with. Ultimately, you would love the same thing as well in terms of being energized and ultimately inspired by those around you. And so you can play a major role in being that for others as well. And now I'm going to turn it over to Jen.
Thanks, Audrey. So going on with another scenario, which is building on that, is making the most of that relationship with your preceptor. So our third scenario, I'm going to read it to you. Your preceptor has a wealth of experience and knowledge that you want to leverage. In addition, she's well connected, and her network will be very helpful for you in your future career directions. You want to foster a strong mentoring relationship with her. So what would you do to make the most of this? Options. 1, ask her to be your mentor the next time you see her, wherever that may be. It could be in a meeting, you might run into her in the kitchen, or on your way to the bathroom. Put this on the agenda for your next standing meeting with her. Schedule a special career development meeting with her and explain your career aspirations and how her mentorship would help you achieve those, and then ask her to be a mentor. Or do nothing. She'll bring it up if she wants to mentor you and you don't want to bother her otherwise. So going to the poll, which of these, and you can select multiple, would you do to make the most of your internship? All right, it looks like most people have filled it out. A lot of you would schedule a career development meeting, which is great. Some might wait and do nothing and just wait and see. Any of these options are valid. But let's talk a little bit about what it would mean to have a good mentor. So what is a mentor? A mentor is someone who's going to guide you. So they'll give you ideas of things to look at or people to talk to. They'll help make sure that you're sailing in the correct direction. So they're going to help with major course corrections for you. And if you're going off course, and to make sure it's actually intentional, they'll teach you. So they'll share their experiences and help you learn from their teachable moments as well as your teachable moments. So it might be mistakes that you've made that they can help you work through, or just opportunities that they see for you. They'll support you with things like networking connections. They might direct you to organizations you've never thought about or opportunities that you otherwise wouldn't be aware of. And they'll help you just broadening your horizons. And they'll encourage you. So this is someone who understands your strengths, sees your growth opportunities, and really believes that you're up to the task of improving. They believe in you, and they'll help you find opportunities that are going to grow you and capitalize on the strengths that you bring. So they're going to help you to step up and then take that next step. So when you've found someone that you think could be a good mentor, and in this case, let's say it's your preceptor, how do you ask them? So first, you want to ask in person if possible. You don't want to ask over email. This is a serious opportunity on both sides, and so you just want to be able to have a conversation about it. Second, you want to be clear about your expectations, especially around their time and the attention that you think you'll need. A good mentor is going to invest time in you, and you want to make sure you're clarifying how much time you think that is. They're busy, and they want to know that you're going to use that time well. You want to explain what you want to get out of that mentorship relationship and why this person is the right fit. So it might be your preceptor, it might be other people that you run into in the organization or in informational interviews this summer or anything like that. So things that could help you indicate why this is a good fit is that you know about their career, and it in some ways or many ways may mirror the path that you hope to take, or you value their expertise and their experience. If you can, to tell them what you've learned from them already and how that's been impactful for you, and the fact that you want to deepen that relationship with them so you can learn even more. You want to make your case based on common experiences and interests. So you want to find someone that you can connect with. In many ways, when you think about talking to a mentor, this is less of a job interview and more of a friend request. It's somewhere in between there, but it's around finding someone that you really connect with. Explain that you're looking for their advice and guidance and not a tutor. So you're not asking for someone to do your work for you, and you want to clarify that it's separate. Especially if you're asking your preceptor, you want to clarify that this is separate from their role as your supervisor. So in many ways, let's say that it is your preceptor, you want to try and set up some sort of mentoring relationship outside of those standing check-ins where you're talking about your actual work, or that you set aside part of your meeting times. If you can only meet once a week or something like that, that part of your meeting time is set aside to be just around that mentoring part of it. What if they say no? I can't see all your faces, but I know this is a question that I get. Well, what if somebody says no? That's okay. Don't read into it more than it is. It may be that they are someone who really understands the value of a good mentoring relationship, and they know how much time you deserve, and they might just not be able to give that to you right now. Or they might not think that they're the best fit for you because they think that they see a lot of career opportunities for you in a different area, and that there may be other people who could connect you better. It's okay to just ask them if they say, I just can't invest at this point. Ask them for suggestions of other people that you might talk to, or other people that have been helpful in their career progression. So it's okay if they say no. It's always good to ask because you're starting that conversation, and you never know, it could come back later. So let's say that you've asked them and they're on board and you're excited about it. So here's what you're going to do. In order for this to be successful, you need to be willing to work hard on your growth. So this is about you being open to making the investment of their time, and you want them to know that it's worth both your time and their time. You're going to be responsible for taking action on the plans that you develop with your mentor. So when you sit and you talk and you identify these growth opportunities, and you identify opportunities for, they're going to connect you with this person, or they're going to point you to a training that would be great for you to take, or something like that, that you're going to take action on it. I got advice once that the most important thing to do, especially when someone's opening their network for you, is to follow through, and follow through quickly. Even if it is to follow through with someone they connect you with and say, thanks so much, I'll be in touch soon. Be motivated, so that's all around just staying on top of it. You're going to be honest with them and objective, but also appreciative and courageous. So if you're really getting a lot out of this, there are going to be some tough moments, and that's a really good thing. And you want to be appreciative of that and show that to them. So saying thank you, indicating thank you for their time. What does the mentor do? They give you their time. They give you the investment of their honest feedback. They connect you to others in their network. They're going to ask you questions and help you understand what you really want. So I chose this little cartoon for this slide because it's about them helping light a path for you and light the way. It's one path that they may see for you, and they're just going to help illuminate it so you can find your way more easily. And when you set up a successful relationship, together you're going to develop a plan. So together you're going to assess your situation. Where are you now? What are any issues or problems that may be limiting your professional growth and advancement? What has worked for you in the past and what hasn't, to be able to be honest about that. To talk about your goals. What do you want to achieve and by when? Talk about strategies or options and some tasks or tactics to achieve those goals. And develop checkpoints, some measures of success, so you'll know when you have reached your goal. We're going to go into our fourth scenario now. So now, and this was something I think a lot of people on that first poll indicated was something they were struggling with right now, is around feedback. So you're looking to grow significantly in your role, which involves wanting some substantive feedback on your work. However, you're realizing you haven't gotten any feedback to date. Which of these options would you go with? I'm going to let you read through these. All right, now we're going to go to the poll. So you're looking for feedback. Which of these options would you select to do? All right, it looks like most people have answered it. So yeah, there are a lot of different ways to go. There are a lot of ways to solicit feedback and to be open to all those opportunities in front of you. So when you're looking for feedback, here are some key elements. And I'm sharing these because this is how most useful feedback is structured. And when you go to people and say that I'm looking for feedback, you might coach them in a way on what you're looking for in particular. In addition, it helps them know that you're serious about what you want from feedback. And you can also use this when you give other people feedback. So you want it to be based on a standard, so judged against benchmarks or what other people are doing. You want the person to focus on the action that you took, not on their interpretation of that action. So what was the actual action that you took, and then what was the impact of that action? What was the impact on the result, on others, on the process, anything like that? And then development. How can you take this experience to develop you further in the future? What could you do differently next time? Here's some roadblocks to avoid. I'll let you take a second to read through those. We all fall into these from time to time, and the key is to be really aware of it, to really check yourself and just know that if you find yourself falling into one of these, to try and back off from it, because it can stop people from wanting to give feedback. So instead of falling on one of those roadblocks, know how to receive feedback well. So first, know your tendencies. Know some of those things that you tend to default to and be aware of them, and find ways to just recognize it when it's happening and stop. Disentangle the what from the who. Sometimes we all can react differently depending on who the feedback is from. Our mother versus our friend can have very different feedback and reactions from us. So try and just focus on what the message is. Try and hear all the feedback in terms of coaching, that this person is giving you this feedback because they want you to grow. And that it's not necessarily evaluative. It's more about them trying to find ways for you to improve. Try and unpack the feedback. So rather than just say, oh, okay, I should talk more, or I should speak up more, try and understand a little bit more about what that might be. So what does that actually mean? Where should I speak up more? In what settings? With which people? How should I present myself? Ask for just one thing to focus on at a time. So try not to do everything at once. Try and focus on just one thing. And when you ask for feedback on one thing. And then engage in some small experiments. You get some feedback, try it out, see how it goes for you, and then adjust. Ask people for more feedback on how that went and reflect how it went, and reflect for yourself as well. I'm going to turn it back to Audrey now for the last scenario. I'll give each of you a little bit of time to read that.
Thanks, Jen. So this scenario, like the last one that Jen just had us go over, reflects a challenge that many of you are facing now based on the results from our first poll. So you're just starting your internship and trying to get a sense of the organization. You're unsure of the structure, lateral versus hierarchical, the formality of the work environment, and the level of deference to those in authority positions. So which of these would you do? Let's go to the poll. And so it looks like, based on the results, that the majority of you would observe and cross-check. Also, in a close second is asking your supervisor, and then also reading about the organization. As you'll see, each of these different options really reflect that what you need from or what you know about an organization is based on the sources of information. And those sources of information, vary from talking with others, your supervisor, other folks who are on the staff of that organization, as well as reading about what other individuals, organizations, groups know about and think about the organization that you're a part of. So this scenario in particular reflects the umbrella of organizational awareness. So organizational awareness is that umbrella term, or that idea of that some people can articulate. It identifies who makes decisions and how they influence them. So some parts of the culture, staff members are able to talk about readily. It's essentially reflecting, that's how we do things around here. That's normal. It's customary to do X, Y, or Z. Other parts of the organizational culture aren't so easily talked about. And the reasons for this may be because folks are uncomfortable about sharing, or people are unconscious to them. They believe something, and now it's just true. It's not just a belief anymore. It's just the way that it is. And the way to understand the work climate and the personality, beliefs, attitudes, norms, or management styles is to listen to what other people are saying and understand what they think is true. Watching or observing is also very important in terms of which kinds of things successful people are doing. That involves folks who are a level or two above you, as well as folks who are at the same level as you, as well as what admin staff are doing as well. This also involves figuring out what the job is that folks are responsible for and how they're doing what they're doing very successfully. Essentially, organizational awareness is the intersection of understanding the job and how to do it well within the culture, the space that you find yourself in. And how you navigate organizational culture impacts you personally and professionally. It also reflects the credibility that you have in carrying out the work that you're responsible for. And it also promotes a sense of citizenship as you contribute to the development of your local community, as well as carry out the larger goals and mission of the organization. So strategies to increase organizational awareness involve understanding what the culture is about. And to break this down, it could involve the lunch culture. In some organizations, they eat together. In others, they don't. Some organizations, they have one person who asks everyone else and goes around, can I get you something? In some organizations, it's okay to eat at your desk, and in others, it's not. And some folks, in some organizations, people barely talk to each other around lunch. So it's important to kind of observe what folks are doing and what they've found themselves engaged in when it comes to some of those socialization activities. Time culture is another example of organizational culture. A meeting starts at 9. Are folks expected to show up a few minutes early and be ready to start the conversation? Or is the organization that you're in similar to Berkeley time, where it's okay to get there at the meeting 10 minutes after? So pay attention to those cues. And this also involves dressing. And we've heard a million times, dress for success, dress for the position you want and not the one you have. But it's important to confirm with your preceptor what the expectations are in the 9 to 5 office setting versus when you're out in the community conducting focus groups, for example, with youth. It's also important to get to know the people that you're doing the work with. Don't miss out on an opportunity to hear the personal stories, backgrounds, and interests of the staff that you're working with, as well as sharing your own. It's also important to learn what works well and why. So in identifying those who are successful in what they're doing in the organization, talk about what they view as effective or ineffective and listen carefully. And identify who influences the policies, decisions, and activities in big ways and in small ways as well. And then I'll turn it over to Jen to take us to the final stretch of this webinar.
Perfect. Thank you. So we're going to go into a little bit of Q&A now. So just to acknowledge that it's 12:45 right now, so we're going to take maybe just 2 minutes for questions. And then very briefly, just do a quick key takeaways. So I think one question we got so far was from someone who was asking about references from their organization, and just that their organization had an HR policy to simply say that a person worked here from one date to another, but they can't give a positive or negative reference. I think in that case, and Audrey, if you have any other comments as well, please chime in. But in that case, I think the difference between references from an organization and from an individual are very different. So the organization may only be able to recognize your specific dates of employment, but you can still get a reference usually from your preceptor or colleague or someone else who can be more of a professional reference for you. And I'd encourage you to look that way if you need a professional reference. And we just got one more question. Do you always have to directly ask for someone to be your mentor, or can you allow that to happen more organically? That's a great question. So I'll chime in, and again, Audrey, please also share your thoughts. On that, it can go either way. So if you see someone that you really want to have as a mentor and you want to start that relationship early on, it's completely fine to ask, as we talked about, and a lot of people react very well to that. On the flip side, there may be times that it does happen more organically. I know with 2 of my mentors, it's been very organic, and it wasn't even something that I was aware they were becoming mentors until they really were, and that's totally fine as well. I don't know, Audrey, if you have any other comments.
Yeah, I just wanted to just chime in and say the formality within which you label another person as a mentor or as you label yourself as a mentee definitely does not have to necessarily be in place. I think it's important to keep in mind what contributions is this person making to my growth, and what can I learn from the advice or guidance that I'm getting from him or her, and then I think take it from there. But also just really be open to what those specific nuggets are that may contribute to again, your development.
Great. And it looks like we have just one more question, which is any advice for working in a siloed and bureaucratic environment? I'm isolated from other teams, so wondering how to bridge those relationships without seeming to step outside my area or supervisor. Audrey, do you want to dive in with that one first?
Sure. I think that one thing that may be helpful is to reach out to other teams in terms of, I'm new and I'd like to learn more about this organization, why this organization is a good fit for you personally. So just really understanding that you're here to absorb historically what's been going on really well, and understand that there may be some future ways that you can work together, whether it's in the space of a particular project or other things down the line, but really make it a conversation to understand what else is going on in different departments, to connect the dots for you at a later point in time.
Yeah, and I would just add briefly to that, to take advantage of your role as in an internship, is that it's different, and a lot of doors open for you when you're a student and an intern, including opportunities for networking across an organization in a different way, and to be willing to step forward and go for that. And I think people expect that.
Mm-hmm. Oh, Jen, I just wanted to mention with that too, is that I think that by clarifying your role, that yes, you are an intern, it also helps remind other staff members about the excitement that they had about working with the organization, when they started early on, because now they're able to impart some of that knowledge to you as a new person in the room.
Great. All right. So before we close, I just wanted to share with all of you, let's see if I can get to that slide, that we are doing this summer a Leading from Where You Are award. So many of you may have heard this tagline for the Center for Health Leadership, which is around leading from where you are. We're going to be sending out a lot of details in the coming, probably in the next week, I'd expect. But just wanted to let you know that we're going to be recognizing people who step up and lead from any position in their organization for all of our summer interns. We want to recognize your efforts to impact change. We see some incredible results every summer, and we really wanted to take some time to highlight those. So we're going to look for people who are motivating, empowering, or inspiring anyone within their organization or the community they're working with to work toward and achieve a common goal or vision. So stay tuned. We'll be sending out more information about that soon. And then finally, just some key takeaways. We want you to remember that you're not alone in these challenges, that there are a lot of people experiencing different challenges, and there are a lot of resources to support you. To practice managing up, to understand your preceptors' priorities and their drivers, to establish mentorship separate from a supervisory role and to be clear about that, to ask for feedback and then be really open to it, and to take a lot of steps to try and increase your organizational awareness. These are all skills that are going to serve you really well throughout your career. If you have additional questions, we encourage you to consult the Center for Health Leadership Toolkit for some key resources. A lot of the content that we pulled today is actually through different articles on that toolkit, so definitely look on there. It's an incredible treasure trove. Reach out to your field supervisor. Troubleshoot with your colleagues. Ask other students what they're experiencing. There's so much knowledge amongst your friends. And contact our faculty. So Audrey and myself, we're both here for you to help troubleshoot in any way that we can. Keep in mind that in the coming weeks, you're going to have a concentration-specific check-in with your field supervisor. And then we'll have another webinar on this leadership series on Friday, July 10th at noon as well. And we'll be developing the content based on some of the different questions we got today and also different challenges that people are sharing in the coming weeks. We want you to think about what action you'll take after this webinar, and you'll see that we're going to have a closing poll or a survey when you exit. And one of the questions is, what's an action step that you're going to take based on what you learned today? So we're really curious to hear that. We want to follow up and hear how it goes, but also we want to hear what you got out of this. That's a really helpful thing for us. And so finally, just on behalf of Lisa and Audrey and myself and the rest of our team, thank you. We really appreciate you taking the time today. Have a great Friday.
Thanks, everyone.